Some animals feel eternal. They seem so woven into our lives that it's impossible to imagine a world without them. The German Shepherd is one of those animals. It guards homes, works beside police officers, serves in the military, and sleeps at the feet of millions of families. But here is the strange truth. A little more than a century ago, the German Shepherd did not exist. If you had traveled across Germany in the late 19th century, you could have walked through every village and crossed every pasture without finding a single dog by that name. Instead, you would have seen sheep scattered across rolling green hills and dozens of different herding dogs running among them. Some were powerful enough to confront predators. Others were quick and agile, turning an entire flock with a single movement. They were not one breed. They had no shared identity. They existed for one purpose only: work. To most people, they were simply farm dogs. To one man, they looked like the beginning of something extraordinary. His name was Max von Stephanitz, a former cavalry officer with an unusual dream. He believed Germany needed a national working dog, an animal that combined intelligence, endurance, courage, and loyalty into one perfect companion. It was an ambitious idea. Some might even call it impossible, because how do you take dozens of different regional dogs and somehow shape them into a single breed that possesses only the very best qualities? And before we go any further, I'd love to know this. If you could choose only one trait in a dog: loyalty, intelligence, courage, or kindness, which would you pick? Then, in 1899, something happened that changed canine history forever. At a dog show, von Stephanitz noticed a remarkable animal named Horand von Grafrath. The dog had a wolf-like appearance, sharp, alert eyes, and carried himself with an almost unsettling confidence. To everyone else, he looked like another capable herding dog. To von Stephanitz, he looked like the future. Without hesitation, he bought him. That single decision would lead to the birth of one of the most famous dogs on Earth. But hidden inside that moment was the beginning of a conflict that still divides German Shepherd enthusiasts today. Because von Stephanitz never wanted a beautiful dog. He wanted a useful one. Again and again, he warned that if people started breeding for appearance instead of ability, they would eventually damage everything that made the breed exceptional. Almost no one listened, and that raises a much bigger question. Did humans succeed in creating the perfect working dog? Or did they slowly change one of the world's greatest breeds into something its creator would barely recognize? When Max von Stephanitz bought Horand von Grafrath in 1899, he believed he had found the foundation of a perfect working dog. What he could not possibly know was that he had also started a chain of events that would change the lives of millions of dogs and millions of people. Within months, he founded the Society for German Shepherd Dogs, known simply as the SV. It was not just another kennel club. It was a mission. Every rule reflected his philosophy. A German Shepherd should be intelligent before it is beautiful, useful before it is impressive, capable of working all day and still eager for one more command. At first, the plan seemed straightforward. Breed the best dogs together and preserve their finest qualities. But then something unexpected happened. The world around the new breed began to change. Picture Germany at the beginning of the 20th century. Smoke rises from factory chimneys. Railways stretch across the countryside. Small farming communities are being transformed by industry. And the old profession of shepherding, the very job this new dog was named after, is slowly disappearing. Think about that for a moment. Why create a shepherd dog at the exact moment shepherds themselves are fading into history? Most people would have seen a problem. Von Stephanitz saw an opportunity. He never imagined his dogs spending their entire lives behind flocks of sheep. He believed they could become something much greater: guards, messengers, rescue dogs, protectors, and companions capable of serving society in ways few animals ever had. It was an extraordinarily modern idea, and it spread quickly. Breeders across Germany joined the new society. Litters multiplied. The German Shepherd was becoming a recognizable breed. But hidden beneath that success was a problem that nobody fully understood. Again and again, breeders returned to Horand's bloodline. His qualities were so desirable that his descendants appeared everywhere in the breed's early history. The strategy created consistency, but it also narrowed the gene pool. The seeds of future health problems were quietly being planted long before anyone realized they existed. At the time, however, nobody was worried. People were too busy being amazed. The dogs learned commands with remarkable speed. They seemed to anticipate what their handlers wanted. Stories spread of German shepherds guarding isolated farms, protecting children, and showing a level of loyalty that bordered on the unbelievable. Their reputation grew year after year. Then another group began paying close attention: police officers, military leaders, government officials. They looked at these dogs and saw something extraordinary: discipline, endurance, courage. An animal that remained calm under pressure and obeyed commands even in confusion and danger. The German Shepherd was no longer becoming merely a successful breed. It was becoming something much more valuable, a national asset. And as tensions quietly gathered across Europe, these remarkable dogs were about to leave the farms behind forever. Because the 20th century was approaching, and with it came a war that would reveal what the German Shepherd was truly capable of. August 1914. Across Europe, church bells rang, trains filled with soldiers, and cheering crowds believed the war would be over by Christmas. Instead, the world stepped into one of the deadliest conflicts in human history. And among the rifles, artillery, and endless columns of marching men, an unexpected hero walked on four legs: the German Shepherd. Before the war, few people outside Germany had ever heard of the breed. But the German military already understood something that most of the world did not. These dogs were intelligent, disciplined, and remarkably calm under pressure. The battlefield would soon prove just how extraordinary they were. Picture the trenches of northern France and Belgium. The ground is thick with mud. Barbed wire stretches across shattered fields. Smoke hangs in the air, and every few minutes the earth shakes under exploding shells. Communication in this world is a nightmare. Telephone lines are destroyed by artillery fire. Human messengers become lost in the chaos or never return at all. But the dogs keep moving. German shepherds carried messages between isolated units, delivered medical supplies to dangerous positions, and searched the broken landscape for wounded soldiers who could not call for help. Some became sentries, warning troops of approaching danger long before anyone else noticed. Others crossed shell-torn ground while bullets and explosions erupted around them. To many soldiers, they seemed almost fearless. Accounts from the war tell of dogs refusing to leave injured men, remaining beside them for hours until help finally arrived. In a conflict that often revealed humanity at its worst, these animals displayed qualities that seemed almost painfully human: loyalty, courage, and devotion. And then something remarkable happened. Even the enemy began to admire them. British and American soldiers who entered abandoned German positions sometimes encountered these dogs and were astonished by their discipline and intelligence. Some formed deep attachments to German Shepherd puppies and brought them home after the war ended. Think about how extraordinary that is. A breed that had served one side during one of history's most brutal wars was now being carried into former enemy nations by the very men who had fought against it. The war had introduced the German Shepherd to the world. By 1918, stories of these dogs had spread far beyond Germany's borders. Newspapers praised their bravery. Returning soldiers spoke about them with genuine affection. Yet, peace brought an unexpected twist. In Britain, anti-German feeling remained so strong that many people did not want a dog with the word German in its name. The breed was renamed the Alsatian, as though changing a name could somehow change its history. The dogs, of course, remained exactly the same. But the episode revealed something important. Even animals can become caught in the fears, politics, and memories of human conflict. And while Europe was trying to recover from war, the German Shepherd's greatest transformation was only beginning. Because somewhere among the ruins of a battlefield, a wounded puppy had been rescued. And that small, injured dog was about to become one of the most famous animals on Earth, and turned the German Shepherd into a global legend. When the guns of the First World War finally fell silent, the world was exhausted. Cities lay in ruins. Millions of families mourned loved ones who would never return. An entire generation had seen things it could never forget. And everywhere, people were searching for something they had almost lost: hope. Strangely enough, some of that hope would arrive on four legs. In 1918, an American soldier named Lee Duncan was serving in France when he came across a bombed-out kennel near the front lines. Inside the shattered remains of the building were several German Shepherd puppies. They were survivors of a war they could not possibly understand. Most people would have kept walking. Duncan stopped. He rescued two of the puppies and named them Nanette and Rin Tin Tin after small French good luck charms that soldiers often carried in their pockets. It seemed like a small act of kindness. In reality, it would change the history of an entire breed. Only one of the puppies would survive long enough to make the journey back to America. That survivor was Rin Tin Tin. At first, he was simply a beloved companion, but before long, Duncan noticed something unusual about him. The dog learned commands with remarkable speed, possessed endless energy, and seemed to focus on people with an almost unsettling intensity. Those who met him often had the strange feeling that he understood far more than an ordinary dog should. Then chance intervened once again. The early 1920s were transforming Hollywood. Silent films were becoming one of the world's favorite forms of entertainment, and movie studios were desperately searching for new stars. Nobody expected one of those stars to be a German Shepherd. Rin Tin Tin's athletic ability seemed almost unbelievable on screen. He leaped over obstacles, performed complex actions with precision, and played the hero in adventure after adventure. Audiences were captivated. Children adored him. Adults admired him. Studios loved him because his films earned enormous amounts of money. Some historians even believe his success helped save a struggling movie studio from financial collapse. Whether that story is entirely true remains debated, but one fact is beyond question. Rin Tin Tin became one of the biggest stars in the world, and with every film he made, something extraordinary happened. People were not simply falling in love with a dog, they were falling in love with an entire breed. Families across America and Europe suddenly wanted German Shepherds that looked like their cinematic hero. Demand exploded. Breeders struggled to produce enough puppies. And this is where the story takes an unexpected turn. The greatest threat to the German Shepherd was no longer war, it was success. As demand grew, some breeders became more interested in selling puppies than protecting the qualities that had made the breed extraordinary in the first place. The warnings of Max von Stephanitz were beginning to sound almost prophetic. His perfect working dog was becoming a worldwide sensation. And before long, another global conflict would arrive, one that would once again place the German Shepherd at the center of history and test the breed in ways nobody could have imagined. By the late 1930s, the German Shepherd had become one of the most admired dogs on Earth. It was trusted on farms, welcomed into family homes, and respected by police and military organizations around the world. Yet just as the breed was reaching the height of its fame, Europe was once again moving toward catastrophe. Germany was changing rapidly. A new political order celebrated discipline, strength, and obedience. In that atmosphere, the German Shepherd became more than a working dog. To many people, it seemed to represent the very qualities the nation wished to project. Then, in 1939, the world went to war again. And once more, the German Shepherd followed humans into the darkness. These dogs served as messengers, sentries, guards, and rescue animals. They traveled with soldiers through forests, across frozen fields, and into cities reduced to rubble by bombs and artillery. Imagine a cold night somewhere in Europe. A wounded soldier lies alone in the darkness, unable to move. Then he hears something. Footsteps. Out of the shadows emerges a German Shepherd. The dog finds him, stays beside him, and helps lead rescuers to his position. For countless men during the war, the appearance of a dog like this meant the difference between life and death. Military records and personal accounts are filled with stories of German shepherds locating injured soldiers, carrying supplies to isolated positions, and continuing their work even amid explosions and chaos. Their loyalty became legendary. But this chapter of their history carries a difficult truth. The German shepherd served wherever humans placed it. Its intelligence and obedience made it valuable not only in acts of rescue and protection, but also in some of the darkest places of the war. The dogs themselves understood none of the politics around them. They did not choose sides. They did not understand ideology. They simply obeyed, not we. And this is what makes the story so complicated. The same breed that saved wounded soldiers could also be found standing guard in places forever associated with human suffering. Think about that for a moment. The contradiction tells us nothing troubling about the dogs. It tells us something profound about ourselves. Animals, like tools and machines, often become reflections of the people who command them. The German Shepherd did not change. Human beings did. When the war finally ended in 1945, Europe once again lay in ruins. Millions were dead, entire cities had been destroyed, and nations faced the enormous task of rebuilding. Yet somehow, the reputation of the German Shepherd endured. Allied soldiers who had worked alongside these dogs spoke of their intelligence and reliability. Police agencies, rescue organizations, and security services around the world paid close attention. If these animals could perform under the worst conditions imaginable, what might they accomplish in times of peace? That question would shape the next chapter of the breed's history. The German Shepherd was about to leave the battlefield behind and become one of the most trusted working dogs on Earth. But success always carries a hidden cost. As demand for exceptional dogs grew, people began breeding animals that were stronger, faster, and more specialized than ever before. In the pursuit of perfection, humans were about to reshape the German Shepherd once again, and the consequences of those decisions would be felt for generations. When the Second World War finally ended, the German Shepherd entered perhaps the most extraordinary chapter of its history. The breed had already proven itself in the worst conditions imaginable. It had crossed battlefields, carried messages through artillery fire, and searched for the wounded in the middle of chaos. Now the world needed something different. It needed order. It needed safety. And, perhaps more than anything, it needed trust. The German Shepherd seemed perfectly suited for all three. Police departments across Europe and North America had been paying attention. They discovered that these dogs possessed a rare combination of intelligence, courage, and self-control. They learned commands with remarkable speed, remembered complex routines, and remained calm in situations that unsettled most animals. But there was something even more unusual about them. They seemed to want to work with people. Imagine walking down a city street in the 1950s. A police officer and a German Shepherd move side by side. The dog watches every passerby, every doorway, every shadow. The officer hardly needs to speak. To many people, it looked as though the two shared the same mind. Their responsibilities grew quickly. German Shepherds tracked fleeing criminals through forests and crowded cities. They searched for missing children and located evidence that human eyes and noses would never have found. Then they surprised everyone again. Rescue organizations discovered that the breed's talents extended far beyond police work. In snow-covered mountains, German Shepherds searched for lost hikers and avalanche victims. After earthquakes and explosions, they carefully moved through dangerous ruins, locating survivors trapped beneath broken stone and twisted steel. Again and again, these dogs demonstrated an astonishing ability to adapt. And this raises an interesting question. How can one breed become so good at so many different jobs? Experts in canine behavior often point to a rare combination of qualities. German Shepherds possess intelligence, athletic ability, emotional stability, and an exceptional willingness to cooperate with humans. Many breeds have one or two of those traits. Very few possess all of them together. Then came perhaps the most remarkable role of all. German Shepherds became guide dogs for people who were blind. Think about what that means. The same animal that could chase criminals or search disaster zones could also gently guide a person through a busy street, helping them regain independence and confidence. Few breeds in history have earned such extraordinary trust. Their reputation became almost legendary, and that, strangely enough, was the beginning of a new problem. As German Shepherds became more popular, people began wanting very different things from them. Police agencies wanted intelligence and working ability. Families wanted loyal companions. Dog show enthusiasts increasingly focused on appearance, movement, and physical standards. Those goals did not always point in the same direction. Breeders slowly divided into competing philosophies. One group believed the German Shepherd should remain, above all else, a working dog. Another believed beauty and breed standards deserved equal attention. And from across the decades came the echo of Max von Stephanitz's warning: utility is the true criterion of beauty. Many no longer agreed. The argument was no longer about breeding techniques. It had become a debate over the very identity of the German Shepherd. What exactly was this remarkable dog meant to be? The answer to that question would reshape the breed forever and spark one of the most passionate controversies in its entire history. By the 1960s and 1970s, the German Shepherd seemed to have achieved everything its creator had dreamed of. It was a police dog, a rescue dog, a guide dog, a military partner, and a trusted family companion. Few breeds in history had earned such admiration. Yet beneath that success, something unexpected was happening. The German Shepherd was slowly becoming two different dogs. On one side were the working line breeders. They believed the breed should remain exactly what Max von Stephanitz had envisioned: an intelligent, athletic dog built for service, endurance, and real-world tasks. On the other side were many show-line breeders. They focused increasingly on appearance, movement, and the standards that won competitions and impressed judges. At first, the differences seemed minor. Then they became impossible to ignore. Imagine placing two German Shepherds side by side. One stands tall and athletic, its body built for stamina and action. The other has a more sloping back and a softer outline, bred to match changing show preferences. Both are German Shepherds, yet they can seem like different interpretations of the same idea. And this is where the story becomes fascinating. The argument was never simply about looks. It was about identity. What had Max von Stephanitz truly intended? Was the German Shepherd primarily a worker, a companion, a show champion, or could it somehow remain all three? Then another, far more troubling question emerged. What if the pursuit of certain qualities was harming the breed itself? Veterinarians and breeders began raising concerns about inherited conditions, particularly problems involving the hips, joints, and overall structure of some dogs. Stories appeared of animals struggling with pain and mobility issues. For many owners, the issue became deeply personal. Imagine watching a dog that wants to run, jump, and play, but whose body makes those simple joys difficult. It was heartbreaking. The debate quickly grew emotional. Breeders defended their bloodlines and pointed to countless healthy, active dogs. Others argued that selective breeding, when pushed too far, could unintentionally sacrifice health in pursuit of appearance. The truth, as so often happens, was complicated. Not every show-line German Shepherd suffered from health problems, and not every working-line dog was free from genetic issues. But scientists studying canine genetics increasingly warned of a difficult reality. Selective breeding can create extraordinary traits. It can also reduce genetic diversity and increase the risk of inherited diseases. The German Shepherd was not alone in facing these challenges. Many beloved breeds encountered similar problems. But because the German Shepherd occupied such a special place in human society, the debate felt intensely personal. People cared deeply about these dogs. They wanted them to remain healthy, capable, and true to the qualities that had made them legendary. And even as arguments over breeding grew louder, history was quietly preparing another chapter. A new century was approaching. German Shepherds would soon be working in airports, searching disaster sites, and standing beside first responders in moments of unimaginable tragedy. When catastrophe struck in the early 21st century, the world would once again discover why these remarkable animals had earned their extraordinary reputation. On the morning of September 11, 2001, thousands of ordinary lives changed in an instant. Within hours, smoke covered the skyline of New York, buildings had collapsed, and rescue workers from across the United States were rushing towards scenes of devastation that seemed almost impossible to comprehend. Amid the sirens, dust, and confusion, another group also went to work. They arrived on 4 legs. Among the search and rescue teams deployed to the disaster sites were numerous German shepherds, trained for exactly this kind of emergency. They climbed across unstable mountains of twisted steel and broken concrete, moving through places that were dangerous even for experienced rescuers. The work was exhausting. Handlers later described their dogs searching for hours, ignoring fatigue, smoke, and sharp debris beneath their paws. Again and again, they returned to the rubble, driven by instincts shaped through generations of breeding and years of training. Imagine standing beside your dog in that environment. The air is thick with dust. Everything around you feels uncertain. Yet your dog keeps moving forward, nose to the ground, still searching. For many rescuers, these animals became symbols of perseverance. And once again, the world was reminded of something remarkable. German shepherds possess abilities that seem almost extraordinary. Their sense of smell can detect traces invisible to human senses. Their confidence allows them to enter unstable places that many animals would avoid. But during those difficult days, rescuers noticed something unexpected. Many of the dogs appeared confused by the lack of survivors. Search and rescue dogs are trained to expect success. They search, they find someone, and they are rewarded with praise and play. At the disaster sites, however, there were tragically few opportunities for those moments. Some handlers later recalled that their dogs seemed unsettled or discouraged. To help them, rescue teams occasionally staged small exercises, allowing the dogs to make successful finds and receive the rewards they had been trained to expect. Scientists still debate exactly how deeply dogs understand human emotions. What is not debated is their sensitivity to us. German shepherds are exceptionally skilled at reading body language, tone of voice, and changes in human behavior. They often respond to human stress and sadness in ways that seem almost intuitive. During those difficult weeks, the bond between handlers and their dogs became more visible than ever. In the years that followed, the breed's responsibilities continued to grow. German shepherds began working in airports, detecting explosives and dangerous substances. They joined military units, border patrol teams, and emergency response organizations around the world. They searched for missing hikers in remote mountains. They located survivors after earthquakes. They protected communities during moments of crisis. Wherever there was danger, there was often a German shepherd. Yet while these dogs were proving their value to humanity once again, a quieter problem was emerging. The modern world was changing. Families increasingly lived in smaller homes and spent long hours away from home. Many people acquired German shepherds because they admired their appearance or reputation, without fully understanding the needs of a highly intelligent, energetic working breed. And so, after more than a century of service, the greatest challenge facing the German shepherd was no longer war, disaster, or controversy. It was a simple and unsettling question. Does the modern world still understand the kind of dog that humans spent more than a century creating? The modern German shepherd lives a curious double life. In one world, it remains exactly what Max von Stephanitz imagined more than a century ago. It searches for missing people in remote wilderness, detects explosives in crowded airports, works beside police officers, and serves with military units in some of the most dangerous places on Earth. In the other world, it sleeps beside fireplaces, rides in family cars, and lies at the feet of children. Both lives are real, yet they do not always fit comfortably together. Imagine bringing home a German shepherd puppy because you admire the breed's beauty or remember seeing one in a movie. At first, the puppy seems calm and charming. Then, a few months pass. The dog wants to learn. It wants to run. It wants to solve problems. It wants a purpose. And suddenly you realize something important. This is not an ordinary companion. Beneath the soft fur and affectionate nature lives an animal shaped by generations of careful selection for work and partnership with humans. A century of breeding cannot simply be turned off, and this has created one of the breed's greatest modern challenges. Many people want the appearance of a German Shepherd without fully understanding the demands that come with such intelligence and energy. A bored German Shepherd often becomes frustrated rather than content. Some chew furniture, some dig holes, others bark constantly or develop anxiety and destructive behaviors. The dog is not being stubborn. It is searching for a job. Think about that for a moment. The very qualities that made the German Shepherd famous, its intelligence, curiosity, and eagerness to work, can also make it difficult to own. Its greatest strengths can become its greatest challenges. Animal behavior specialists regularly rank the German Shepherd among the most intelligent of all dog breeds. But intelligence is not always easy to live with. A highly capable mind needs stimulation, companionship, and meaningful activity. Without those things, even loyalty can become frustration. At the same time, there are reasons for optimism. Modern genetic research has given breeders new tools to improve health and reduce inherited conditions. Responsible breeding programs increasingly emphasize temperament, physical soundness, and genetic diversity. Around the world, countless German Shepherds continue to live long, active, and fulfilling lives. And the more scientists study dogs, the more extraordinary the German Shepherd appears. Research suggests that dogs can recognize human emotions, understand gestures, learn large vocabularies, and form relationships with people of remarkable depth and complexity. Few species have adapted so completely to human society, which leads to a remarkable question. Did humans truly create the German Shepherd? Or did this breed, through its loyalty, intelligence, and willingness to work beside us, also shape our understanding of trust, service, and companionship? Perhaps the relationship has always worked both ways. The German Shepherd was born from a human dream of creating the perfect working dog. Yet, over the past century, it has become something much greater. It has become a mirror, a reflection of some of humanity's finest qualities: courage, devotion, resilience, and the enduring desire to form meaningful bonds with another living creature. And that may explain why, after more than 100 years, the story of the German Shepherd still feels unfinished, because the final chapter is not really about dogs at all. It is about why humans continue to look into the eyes of this remarkable animal and see something of themselves looking back. In the end, the history of the German Shepherd is not really the history of a dog. It is the history of an idea. More than a century ago, Max von Stephanitz looked across the fields of Germany and imagined an animal that did not yet exist. He wanted a dog that was intelligent enough to learn, brave enough to face danger, and loyal enough to stand beside humanity in every circumstance. Above all, he wanted a dog with purpose. Against extraordinary odds, he succeeded. From a handful of regional herding dogs emerged one of the most influential breeds in history. German Shepherds have crossed battlefields, guided people who could not see, searched for survivors beneath collapsed buildings, detected danger before human senses could perceive it, and protected families in every corner of the world. Very few animals have lived so many different lives. Yet perhaps their greatest achievements cannot be measured by medals, trophies, or records of service. They happen in quiet moments. An elderly person sits alone, and a dog rests faithfully beside the chair. A frightened child finds the courage to step outside because a trusted companion walks nearby. A rescue worker kneels beside a dog that has just found someone who was believed lost. These moments rarely become part of history books, and yet they may reveal more about the German Shepherd than any award ever could. Because for all our scientific knowledge, there remains something mysterious about the relationship between humans and dogs. Researchers can explain genetics. They can measure intelligence. They can describe instincts and behavior. What they still struggle to explain completely is trust. Why does an animal willingly place its life in human hands? Why does it search tirelessly for strangers, remain beside the sick, or wait patiently for someone who may never return home? Perhaps there is no single answer. Perhaps loyalty is one of those rare things that can be witnessed but never fully explained. The German Shepherd was born from one man's dream. It survived 2 world wars. It became a movie star. It protected nations and comforted millions of ordinary people. And somewhere along that extraordinary journey, it became something much greater than a successful breed. It became a symbol of partnership, a reminder that the strongest bonds are not always formed between people. Sometimes they are formed in silence, through years of shared work, trust, and companionship between a human hand and a dog that chooses to walk beside it. And perhaps that is why the story of the German Shepherd never truly ends. Every service dog beginning its training, every rescue dog entering a disaster zone, and every family welcoming a puppy into its home becomes part of a history that started with a simple dream in 19th century Germany. Before we say goodbye, if a German Shepherd has ever been part of your life, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. And if you enjoy exploring the hidden histories behind the animals that changed our world, consider joining us for the next journey. Because the history of the German Shepherd may now be complete, but the mystery of why these remarkable animals choose to love us so faithfully is still being written. One life, one friendship, and one loyal paw beside a human hand at a time.